Good to know. Active Wellness is a management services company specializing in fitness and wellness services. Of course, we do not sell investments. And we do not provide expert tax or investment advice. That's not our business. We always recommend that you get advice from a variety of sources, think about it carefully, and then make your own decisions. It's your money. All numbers here come from publicly available data so that you can replicate the calculations. If you have questions afterwards, ask us. We'll actually show you how we came up with them. And now, hello, I'm Kerry White from Active Wellness. Welcome to this episode of Financial Survivor. Tonight, two contestants from the fitness industry. They're physically fit and mentally fit, but are they financially fit? We're about to find out. First, as you know, my background is in wellness or in corporate finance with Active Wellness. For an entrepreneurial, from the ground up perspective, we have here tonight with us my good friend Alex. I've known him forever, perhaps his whole life. Alex started his business when he was a teenager and now runs a multinational 156 country agricultural distribution operation. He's here to help us understand the entrepreneurial perspective. Welcome, Alex.
How's it going? Great to be here today, Kerry.
You ready for this?
Absolutely. Let's do this.
Excellent. Okay, first, let's meet our two contestants. Topher works in HR at Active Wellness, is married, lives in San Francisco. Mike also works at Active Wellness, but not in HR. He works in technology, is married and lives in Alameda. Great. Welcome, gentlemen. Ready to go. Now you know the rules. We ask the questions. You give us your best response, proving to us that you are prepared. And we in our audience will select a winner at the end. To all of you watching out there, you can vote at any time at the link that you saw on that page when you came in through YouTube. There will be a survey there, and our winner will receive the grand prize. Okay, as a reminder, this show is live, and I do mean live, and almost completely unrehearsed. Our contestants are not professional actors, and they have almost no idea what they are doing. Let's go ahead and go to our first question. Mike, what is the best way to save money?
I would have to say not having children. My children are complete money sucks, and if I didn't have children, I would be super rich.
That is a great answer. You know, I'm almost going to give you the winning credit for that answer. I have a slightly different perspective for our audience, but they should also keep your answer in mind. Let's go to our first slide. I'd like to tell you about something called setting up automatic savings. Here is an idea that I started with a long time ago. I tried this out at multiple different positions. Let me tell you this works. Here's what you do. You know how you get paid a direct deposit every paycheck, and it goes straight into your bank account. All you do is you get a second bank account someplace for cheap, and you take a small amount of your paycheck that you were going to get, a fixed number, whatever works for you, and you have that sent to the second account every cycle, and you never go to that other account, and you never take that money out. And what happens is over time, it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it's there when you need it years down the road, and you never even miss it if you set that number right, because you never see it. And what happens is you'll live off that money that you get from the rest of your paycheck, and that other piece will become savings for you. Now, here's how you can do this. You can see this on the slide that we're now presenting. The Ascentus employee self-service system will allow you to go in and add a second direct deposit account. If you have any questions, you can ask HR or payroll. They can tell you how to do it. But that'll allow you to set that up on your own for the amount that works for you. That I think is a really, really helpful thing. Now I'd like to turn to my buddy Alex to ask the second question, and this one goes to Topher, right?
So Topher, if you're already saving, should you enroll in a 401k?
Yes. Since I'm in HR, I know this aspect of it. Yes, start saving while you're young. And as I tell all my friends, all that money you spend on happy hour, put some of that aside. Put it in your 401k savings. And in the long run, it will help you when you retire.
Topher, that's a great answer. Now let me suggest a couple of other reasons why too. So if we can flip up the next slide about 401k. As you know, if you're already saving, that first savings we talked about with having a second direct deposit, that's an after-tax amount. 401k will be a pre-tax amount, which means that it'll be able to compound tax-free for a while. You'll have to pay tax at the end when you take it out. But on the way there, what's going to happen is you're going to compound at about 1 or 2%, depending on what your returns are, better. And that over a number of years, that's really going to add up. So that's one important benefit. I'm going to give you a second important benefit. You may not be aware, but depending on your state law, and I believe this is the case in California too, the 401k plans, if they're properly set up, and we certainly hope ours is, will provide you with a creditor shield in case something goes wrong. I'll give you an example. It's not going to. Now, this is not going to help you with the IRS or with an ex-spouse, but protected from creditors could mean that if someone needs to attach your assets at some point for whatever reason, they can't get at that 401k number, which is very, very cool. Could that come in handy for you? Yes, it could. Just remember, you can't get at your 401k money until much later without paying the penalty from taking it out. So think of it as long-term, but safer and different from other savings that you might have. Okay, great. Let me go on to the next question. This question is for Mike. Mike, how much should you invest every year?
I invest up to the max of my IRA. So I believe for my wife and myself, that's $5,500 a year.
Absolutely. I think that's a great answer. You can invest the max that you can. That's in a terrific position if you can do that, and I would highly encourage that. Let me give you a couple other things to think about, too. If you go to a standard pension fund or retirement fund or a fund that manages a lot of money, or if you go to a certified financial planner, always a good idea if you can, what they were likely to tell you is that the more that you save as a percentage of your income, the more you will be able to spend after you retire as a percentage of your pre-retirement earnings. Meaning, if you were making X on the way up to retirement over 30 or 40 years, after you retire, you don't want to have to plan to live on 1/10 of X. You would like to be able to have an amount of money that will be some higher fraction of what that pre-retirement earnings was. The standard number they will quote you, and you'll see this all over the web, will be you need to be saving 20% of your income every year.
20%.
Wow.
You know, and that was my response too. The math works. I'll show you in a second. That's true math, but boy, isn't that hard. That sounds like a really tough thing to do. Unless you're very fortunate, like some folks who start their own business and are incredibly successful. Unless you are very fortunate, what you'll find is, like most of us, that's a really hard goal to meet. I'm going to tell you to save whatever you can because everything will make it better for you over long periods of time. However, the reality is that many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and that happens to all of us at times. There's times when we just can't save. The average American saves less than 5%, and so if you're saving less than 5%, don't feel bad about it. At least you're saving something, and if the year comes when you can't save at all, or maybe you even spend money from saving, don't feel bad about it. Get back on it the next year that you can. Don't feel like that's all you can do. Let me show you a graph on the next page. I'm going to flip to something that Alvin will bring up here for us. This is a graph that shows us a line going up from right to from left to right that represents how much of your income you might choose to save each year and what percent you might be able to save, or rather spend after retirement. This is kind of a complex thing to present, but I think it's important. And by the way, we'll have these slides available for you afterwards if you want them. But notice at the bottom of it, what it says is if you save this percentage, that percent on the bottom line of that graph each year for your career, let's call it 40 years, and again, I'll make these calculations available to you if you want afterwards. Then, after you retire, you can spend that percentage that's on the right-hand side of the slide. And you'll see that 20% number. Yeah, that's the magic number. Sure is a big number. But the point is that every point along that line that you can get, every point that you can add into that savings is going to help you out after you retire. And so we really want to encourage people to do kind of what Mike said at the beginning, which is to save the max that you can when you can do it. Okay? Now, for our next question, Alex is going to direct a question to the contestant of his choice. Alex.
Mike, what if you don't make enough money to pay for what you want?
You can collect cans.
But how should you save for what you want? Should you pay it all for what you want? Too late. Topher. I should save for what you want.
Well, if you can't afford what you want, then don't buy it.
Good answer.
There you go. There you go. Now, here is a surprising thing. It's as simple as what Topher just said, but I'm going to put another spin on it. Let me put up this next different graphic here. One of the things they talk about when you talk about businesses, and several of us here, and most of you on the phone, have been in a couple different businesses. They talk about strategy. What is strategy? Strategy includes deciding what you're not going to do. We all know what we should do. We just told you to save everything you can save. What about what you're not going to do? You may decide there's some things that you just are going to not do in order to help that savings goal. The classic one that everyone tells you, well, you ought to spend less money on Starbucks and have one less coffee a week. Absolutely, totally agree. But you may have to also do something that is a little bit more substantial. I mean, you may decide, for example, that rather than make this major purchase, as Topher said, you're going to do just fine with this other thing. I'll tell you, from my own personal standpoint, I have decided there's some things I just cannot afford that I sure would like to have. And so I'm embarrassed sometimes about the car that I drive, but by gosh, I know I'm saving some money on that. So that feels good. So the hardest part is when you can't buy what your friends have. But the act of deciding not to do that because you know that's what's better for you is ultimately a liberating thing. So that's a recommendation. Now, next question. This one is from me. I'm going to ask whoever wants this one first. Okay, no one's volunteering. Mike, whom can you trust when you need financial help?
That's a good question. I think I don't really have anyone I can trust. So I tend to use the internet or my IRAs with Scottrade. So I'll try and do my own due diligence. Unfortunately, that has definitely not gone my way. And hence why I'm at this table right now.
Absolutely. Okay. Do you know that's a very common situation? Many of us find ourselves in a world in which we don't know whom to trust. We don't just happen to be married to or related to somebody that happens to be a financial expert, and you don't know which folks you can trust when you go to a financial planner because A, they could be expensive. You might not have any money for that. But B, they could be working on commission, and that might not be in your interest either. So a lot of times when you are trying to figure out what the answer is to do from a trust standpoint, you may have to do what I have advised many people, which is to start early and make investments in your family members, meaning that you should help each other understand what your financial situations are. Be willing to share a little bit. Be willing to help each other out, and then you learn from their mistakes, and they'll learn from your mistakes. Here's what I mean by that. I grew up in a world in which there were people sort of kept their finances very close to the vest. And my wife grew up in a world where people shared everything. And when we got married, one of the things I had to learn how to do was to help out family members that needed financial help. And that could be as simple as you loan them a little money or you give them a little money. And then they help you out later on. And what I've learned over 20 years of doing this is that as you become closer to people, you find out what their skills are, what they're not good at, and then you also build the trust of, I helped you when you needed it, you help me when I need it. And I'm always going to advise people to give money rather than to loan money to family members, because you don't want to be in the business of having to collect from your family member. Decide what's okay for you and say, you know what, I'm okay if I never get this back. I just want to help you out right now. And you'd be surprised how a little bit of help will provide you with an incredible goodwill years and years down the road. And then what you develop is an ecosystem in your family of folks that will help each other out. If you look at a lot of immigrant communities, a lot of folks who have come from different cultures and come to America, that's one of the things that you see is they are often very willing to help their family members out. And as a result, they're often very financially successful over generations here in the United States. Okay, our next question from Alex.
Yes. Are you prepared for the worst possible case? Topher.
I would want to, but heck no, I'm not.
How could you prepare for the worst possible case?
Build a bunker.
Build a bunker.
And what do we mean by the worst possible case?
Worst possible case.
Zombies roaming the streets, feasting on the living. I mean, it could be that bad.
Your kid breaks your arm. Breaks your arm.
Yes.
Not even his
Wow,
arm.
sure.
Your arm. Just worst possible case. What do you do? How do you prepare for it?
Well, I have the best insurance from Active, so they'll cover my
Excellent. Excellent. That is a great response. Let me tell you some other things that you might consider, and we'll throw up this next image here. I've titled this, Have a Plan for Those You Care About. And here's what I mean by that. Let's imagine that the worst case is that you just up and get hit by a bus. An asteroid falls from the sky. Those zombies roaming through the streets, they catch you first before they catch Mike. Let's imagine that they get you and you're done. Okay, did you know, most of you have thought about what could happen to you if you actually die and you've got a family. Did you know that probate court can take a year? You know, I was explaining this to somebody the other day, and they said, what's probate court? And I said, that's a perfectly reasonable question. Anybody teach you that in school? No, of course they didn't. The fact of the matter is that even if you have a will in almost every state in the union, when you pass away, which could be unexpected, when you pass away, in order to get those resources over to the next person, the person you really want them, you may have to file an application with the probate court to make that happen. Even if you've got a will, even if you've got an estate set up, sometimes you get called into probate court, which is basically the state's way of ensuring that the right person got your assets. And I think that's wonderful that they want to ensure the right person got your assets. But what does that mean if you hit the wall somehow and you're out playing with your drones and the drone hits you and now your family member needs to pay the mortgage? Probate court takes a year. How will your family pay the mortgage 2 months from now? That is the question to ask. I will tell you, I have seen this happen to people very recently, and they were quite surprised to find out that no, the bank was not going to give them their deceased loved ones' funds, and so they had no access to that. So that's not where you want to be. Do you even have a will? Did you name guardians for your children? You'd be surprised how contentious it can be deciding who gets your kids if you don't have guardians in a will. If you do have guardians, it's very clear. If you don't, it can be pretty ugly. And does your family know where to find what they need? Who can get at the cash that they need to buy groceries 2 weeks from now or even next week? Now you're asking, Carrie, why are you bringing this up in a financial wellness seminar? Because finance is about the power to do the things that you want to do and the power to take care of those that you love. And so if you have not planned for this worst case, for some small percentage of you, that worst case is going to arise. And if you didn't plan for it, then you didn't have the financial wellness you were hoping for. And you missed out on one of those key objectives that you ought to have. At Active Wellness, we want you to have planned for as much as you can. And that's why we bring this up. Now for our next question, I'm going to bring this one over to Alex.
How do you decide whether you should invest in something? Mike?
I generally look at future returns and try and make my best guess. So I'll understand the risk of that particular investment. So if I'm looking at bonds versus stocks, understanding what the basic risks are of the investment vehicle that I'm looking at, and then try to do my best due diligence, although I'm hardly sophisticated at this endeavor of trying to figure out whether or not I think that particular investment vehicle makes sense.
Beautiful answer. Topher, I'm expecting something worse.
Well, I'm not an expert when it comes to investment. My husband actually just started investing, and he's actually obsessed with it because he's on his phone all the time looking at his returns. And from what I'm seeing, I guess he's looking at trends, how the company's doing on returns, and that's my best guess.
Excellent. Okay, so I like both of those answers. Those are great answers. And because while it is true that there is no one way to analyze securities, and by securities we mean all those things you might put money in, there's no one best way to do it. Different people have different philosophies. Those are both great because you're thinking about it. Let me tell you what I wanted to suggest to you to also be aware of. Looks like you're already past this, so you don't even need this advice, but I'll throw it up on the screen anyway if we would. Don't invest in anything you don't understand. And what I mean by that is a lot of times you'll be looking at a business or an opportunity and someone will come to you and they'll tell you that's a great opportunity, or you'll read about it and then, boy, that sure looks like it's a hot opportunity, it's a great new IPO, etc. But you don't, the truth of the matter is, if you were to look yourself in the mirror and somebody asks you the question, do you understand this investment? Do you understand how they make money? Do you understand why they're going to do better? If you can't say, yeah, I really do understand it, that could work against you. And one of my favorite guys, everybody likes Warren Buffett, right? Because he's made so much money over such a long and consistent period of time. But one of the things that's great about Warren Buffett is not just that he made the money, it's that how he made the money. He made the money, at least he will tell you, by always investing in things that he could understand. He could tell you why Coca-Cola is a good investment at the time. He could tell you why Geico is a good investment. I love their ads. He could tell you why different insurance companies are useful to invest in. And what he would tell you is he never invests in technology or other things that he does not understand. I can tell you from my own personal perspective, when I have lost the most money, where I have done the things I regret most and am too embarrassed to tell you about, that has been where I did not understand how those guys made money. I made that investment because someone else told me it was a good investment. I made that investment because it was a high yield temporarily, promptly went in half, right? Just all kinds of terrible things. But just think about it like this. It ought to be simple. You're either going to be a professional investor, which you're not, or it ought to be simple enough that you can understand it. It's not your job to know investments. Most of y'all are in the fitness business with the rest of us. It's our job to deliver great fitness to our customers, our clients, our members, and our friends. And so you only need to know a few things. Okay? That's my thought on that one. I'm going to now move it on to our next question. Alex, why don't you take this one?
Which legal document should you trust? Topher.
The one that you read.
I like that. See, I thought Topher was going to say the one that Topher sent you because, of course, he's read. So let me throw up the image here on don't sign anything that you don't understand and haven't thought through. Here's what I mean by that. When I say don't sign anything, how many things you sign every day? Well, a click-through license is signing. I understand we all go through click-throughs for stuff on the web. I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to talk about your mortgage. I'm going to talk about your health care if you have a chance to read through it. I'm going to talk about things that you might get asked to sign for investments that you do, or a car contract. Those kind of contracts that are significant. Your spouse comes to you and says, honey, I want to open this new bank account. I just need to move all our money over here. Maybe you should read that. All of these things. My advice to you, my advice to everyone, do not sign anything that you do not understand or haven't thought through. And if you can't understand it yourself, get someone you trust, or maybe two people, to help you through it. And here's why. The people out there that draft documents are drafting documents for a purpose. And they're drafting it to give power to the person for whom they drafted the document. Our lawyers do it. Our clients' lawyers do it. Everybody does it. Credit card companies do it. It's all about who's got the power. You're being asked to sign something that will give them power. No doubt. It's as simple as that. So you need to ask yourself, how are they trying to defeat me? Because they are trying to defeat you. That's why they want you to sign it. So you say to yourself, you say to me, Carrie, are you just paranoid? Yes, I am. And that's how I got to live this long. And I'm hoping that you will live this long too, and you will read those documents before folks ask you to sign them. And now, for our last question, Alex, will you ask this last one for us?
Yes.
Pick a worthy subject.
All right. Mike, tell me, what is your most important asset?
Your most important and valuable asset.
I'm trying to see the relationships and friendships I built at Active.
Sold. He wins. Okay. I just can't touch that one, so I'm going to leave that where it is. But I'm going to go on and show you what I came here to say. Okay. So let's put up our graphic on Social Security and Medicare. Now, here's what most people who are not as wise as Mike are going to tell you. They're going to tell you that your home is your greatest asset. That is the conventional wisdom in finance. And I will tell you that there's a lot of truth to that. There really is a lot of truth to that, because there's nothing like having a place to live where it does not rain on you and where you can pass it to your children if you're fortunate enough to pay off the mortgage. All those things are good. Most people have most of their liquid financial worth, meaning they could sell it and get out in their home. But I want to drill down a little bit on this, because the truth of the matter is, a lot of times when financial folks will tell you about your house being your asset, they neglect to think about that thing called the debt on the house, or the fact that you can't eat your house, the fact that your house doesn't provide you with medical care, and we're all going to need those things. And in today's society, it turns out if you look at the average person that's out there, they can expect Social Security benefits at retirement of about $1,500 a month, about $18,000 a year. I'm using this off an average person over an average career, right? Your number's going to be different, but that's a pretty good middle of the road number here. And Medicare, God knows Medicare costs keep going up, but if you had to buy that on your own, how much do you think that would cost you? What's that benefit worth to you when you need medical care? It's worth about the same. Now, why did I go down this path? Because I want you to understand that if you look at the total universe, you step back and you go, not just things that I can control with my signature, my house, my bank account. What about those things that I have agreed with the society around me on? And what you discover is those two together, Medicare and Social Security, are worth about $30,000 a year to you when you retire. That's how much it would take to get both of those, to replace those if you had cash. Now, most people will tell you that the answer is save money all your life, and put it aside, and then you'll be able to spend it. Let's take it for a moment and think about how much money would you have to have saved. I hope that image is up there on the screen for you now. How much money would you have to have saved by the time you retire to pay for what Social Security and Medicare are going to do for you? The answer is about $600,000. I can tell you how I got to that calculation, but the answer is that's the order of magnitude. To pay yourself a stream of about $30,000 in benefits to sum of Social Security and Medicare over the remainder of an average life. Why do I bring that up? Well, I bring it up because most people, when they retire, most Americans have about $150,000, $175,000 worth of assets when they retire. So you would not be able to even approach the benefits of what Social Security and Medicare will do for you if you have not been trying to save like we talked about earlier. If you just had an average amount, that's how important those things are to you. And that's why, yes, we want you to save, we want you to do those things, but we also want you to make sure that you're working for reputable employers like Active that will absolutely report your income to the Social Security Administration so that you can get those benefits later on. And we want to make sure that you understand that those benefits are important to you later on, and you need to do whatever it takes on your end to keep that rolling. I put a little plug here for don't forget to vote. Whatever political party you're in, that's your money. That's what you agreed on with society, and it's an important part of your net worth. It sure is an important part of mine. And I want you guys to think about, just be aware of where all the components of your worth or your net worth are coming from. Because something goes wrong, you lose all your money in a bad investment, you still got Social Security. You still got Medicare. It's a great fallback for everybody. Okay? So those are our key questions for us today. And now I'd like to remind our audience to go to that link that you found at the beginning of our presentation on that YouTube screen. Don't forget to vote for Mike or Topher. And now I'm going to check the screen and see what the results of the vote are. Okay, we could do a little drum roll here. And the answer is Mike wins it with the relationship comments. That is awesome. Okay, Mike, we are now going to award you the grand prize. Now, this is all about wellness. This is a series on living actively and living well. And as part of that, I would like to present you with the secret to wellness.
I don't get something from Weed Co.
No.
That's the only reason I
You can discuss that later.
Yeah.
Yes, his business operates on many different levels.
Yes.
This is a bag of quinoa, and as you know, quinoa is the secret to wellness. It is quinoa Krispies. And it's an opened bag, which means it's been sampled and tested just for you. Mike, I'd like to award you with this bag with our congratulations. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you so much for attending this episode of Financial Survivor. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
See ya.